Hey, I'm Alex Radcliffe from Board Game Co, and today I'm reviewing Propolis from Flatout Games. Propolis is a 1 to 4 player tableau building game with area control elements. This here is a prototype, all rules and components subject to change, and I'll have a link to the crowdfunding campaign down below. In Propolis, players are going to be taking actions to go ahead and build structures which are worth points, all while being mindful that the structures you build are not just worth points, but also going to contribute to your tableau, making it easier to buy more structures, including these palaces up here. At the end of the game, which is going to be triggered when a player has reached 10 structures, including their starting structure, including any palaces, and any of these structures, players will weigh up the points of all their structures and see who is able to build the best combination of structures. Along the way, there is an area control element which will play out on these fields, which is where players gather resources. To that end, let's go ahead and talk about the actions you take on your turn. Because on a player's turn, they're going to take one of 5 different actions. The first action they can take is they can go ahead and place their beeples onto the board, and they can place any one card. So for example, I'll go here, here, and here, and I'll go ahead and take those resources. So 2 oranges and a yellow will be added to my display over here. The next player can go ahead and do something similar. They'll go ahead and place it down on, let's say there's no purple, unfortunately. Purple can be hard to get, but we'll go over here on the blue and the green, and again, they'll take those resources. We have the green is going to be gathering another beeple over here from the supply. Blue is going to be on their player board. This is where you're going to have a few extra beeples at the beginning of the game. Additionally, there are ways to lose beeples, so you're going to want to make sure you can get those back. That is the first action you can take. We're going to go ahead and put a few more beeples out so we can show you the second action, because the second action is players can go ahead and take, players can fortify any 2 of their beeples anywhere. So rather than placing it on a single card, they can fortify any 2 beeples. So for example, I can go ahead and fortify this one, and then take a blue and yellow resource. So that's action 2 is going to be fortifying your beeples. Action 3 is recalling all your beeples. You can pull back all your beeples from the cards, or as many beeples as you want, I should say, and that will be your action for the turn. Which brings us to the area control puzzle. There's still 2 more actions to cover. We're going to take a break to talk about the area control in this game. Because in this game, when a card is completely full, or more specifically, when there's no empty cards in a row, you're going to go ahead and resolve area control for that row. Fortified beeples will count as 2, standing beeples will count as 1, and the player who has the most points in that row will get a free pullback of some of their beeples, and you're going to replace a card in the row, and the other players will keep their beeples on that row, which will help them possibly get area control next time. Because pulling back beeples is otherwise a full action, getting those extra beeples being pulled back can be helpful, which is why you're playing for that area control puzzle as you go. Which brings us to the last 2 actions. The last 2 actions are going to be acquiring the structure, specifically a basic structure or a queen's palace. Buying a basic structure is pretty straightforward. You look at the bottom of the card, you pay the number of resources shown. So for example, for this one, I would pay 3 yellow, 2 pink, 2 purple, and I'd also give up one of my beeples to the supply over here, and I would take this card, which is worth 4 points, and put it into my display. That's a pretty straightforward card. You get points, you pay resources, everything else is done. Alternatively, some cards will have a little bit more going on. So for example, let's go ahead and refill the market. For example, this card over here will cost these resources, will give you 2 points, but it'll also give you 2 beeples from the supply were you to build this card. Versus another card, let's go ahead and take a look at another card over here. This card over here, this is a good example. This card is going to give you ongoing resources towards other cards. If a player were to build this card, then in the future, when they're going ahead and building any card that costs orange, they can discount by 2 that cost. So for example, Marigold College over here, which would cost 7 orange, is only going to cost 5 orange instead because of the discount here. It's also worth noting earlier, when I counted the cost over here, I would have that starting yellow resource, which would discount that as well. That's going to lead to the tableau building elements of the game, where as you get more cards, you're not just gaining points, but you're also getting the opportunity to get cheaper cards as you go. Which brings us to the last action, the palaces over here. The palaces are slightly different. You're going to have to give up beeples, you're going to get points, but then also, these are going to be acquired by having that many ongoing resources, not by paying resources from over here. So for example, if I were to buy this card, I could discount this cost by 2 and 1 respectively because I have those, and then pay the rest with resources and buy this card. When you're buying a palace, palaces have to be paid for exclusively by having the tableau built up in your supply over there. You cannot use resources you've acquired through placing your beeples. It has to be all about the tableau you've built. Players are going to continue doing this until one player has 10 structures, which will trigger the end game, at which point you'll score up all the points from the direct points over here you have for cards like these, as well as the ones that give you set collection elements. So cards like this, for example, will give you points for sets of different B's and C's you have over here, or a card like this will give you points for the resources you have yellow, both the actual resources as well as cards that generate resources. You're going to do all that, add up the points, and see who won the game, and that is how you play Propolis. Which brings us to a review of things I like, don't like, and can see others not liking, starting off with what I like, which in general, this game has tableau building. This game has, as you buy cards, you're not just getting points, which is obviously how you win the game, but more importantly, well, not more importantly, but more fun, I should say, you're building up your tableau so that you can get more things cheaper. Trying to find the combination of the cards that are going to give you the accessibility to buy more cards versus combining things that will give you chunks of points. If you get a card like this that gives you for B and C, this pairs nicely with my starting card that already gives me points for B's and C's. So if I can get those and lean heavily into B's and C's while also trying to go ahead and improve my tableau, that will give me a lot of, well, point scoring, but also making me feel clever and powerful and hopefully having enough to go ahead and get that right Queen Palace at the same time. There's point scoring structures that will force you to change the way you play up the game, combined of course with resources. You have the resource scoring, you have the general point scoring, you have the palaces. All of that's going to give you just this element of tableau building plus points that works nicely together. The variety of structures and palaces is nice as well. You will not see the palace in every single game, and there's a whole deck full of a ton of cards that, again, the way they come out, what you choose to add to your tableau, will give you that little element of gathering resources, trying to figure out the right combination of cards, and then doing all that while you build up towards a tableau, and that is overall a satisfying experience. As far as things I don't like in the game, the area control element felt like a strange component to this game. This little area control puzzle you have as you place out your beeples, you gather resources, the whole way you gather resources felt fairly, the resource gathering itself felt fairly simplistic, but the area control puzzle of it just felt like a weird component. I'm not saying it doesn't work strategically. Again, you're getting that pullback, which can help you. It's part of the economy of everything you're doing, but it felt like a weird structure and a weird way that it combined, and none of it felt elegant, or I didn't like the area control component in this game. I'm not saying I'm against area control being in this game. The way area control was handled, I didn't feel lent to an improved game experience. I felt it led to a confusing game experience and one that did not enhance my overall enjoyment of the game, which is a shame because it's a big component of the actual game as you go through it. As far as things I can see others not liking, players are limited to one palace as they play. You can't get more than one, which if you've earned it, I kind of feel like if you're trying to build up the right combinations, if you see, oh look, these all require yellow, so I'm going to build towards yellow, but you can't actually get more than one palace, which could be slightly frustrating. And then additionally, there's the fact that the same way you see that this card pairs beautifully with my starting card, if another player doesn't have that, if they don't have cards that come out that pair nicely with either their starting card or cards they've built, there definitely is an element of the luck of what's going to show up as you play through the experience. As far as final thoughts on Propolis, this is an interesting one because Propolis is not a bad game. I've had fun playing it. It is a good, fun experience. The problem is, it very much is doing what games like Splendor have already done, and I don't think it adds to that genre. I don't think it does anything better necessarily. It has cute, whimsical art. It's got if you like the bee theme, sure, but ultimately, as far as mechanics and gameplay go, the elements that it adds, I felt took away from the experience, and the elements that it does well already exist in other games, both games like Splendor, as well as other games from Flat Out Games themselves. So this is not bad. This is fun. I just don't know if it did anything better that improved the experience for me. It did some things that were different, and those things took a little bit away from the experience. Overall, for me, I'm coming in at a 3 out of 5. As far as other game recommendations, first of all, I mentioned already, but Splendor is going to have that tableau building element with a more straightforward resource gathering puzzle, and it kind of just the whole operation just works very well on its own as far as what it's doing. And then similarly from Flat Out Games themselves, they have Point City, and Point City I thought did a very good job at being a Splendor adjacent kind of experience that did feel like the things that it added were worth exploring and owning. So I definitely recommend checking out that one as well. In any case, and until next time, I'm Alex Radcliffe from Board Game Co. I hope you enjoyed this video, and as always, I hope you have a good one.